honestly, my viewpoint is if I stop learning, then I might as well have quit what I'm doing, because there's always something. It doesn't matter what point I'm at. 20 years down the road, there's going to be something that somebody else figured out that I don't know how to do.
Welcome back to For Entrepreneurs by Entrepreneurs. I am Eric Verdi. With us this week is Greg Blake. He is a copywriter. So I met Greg on a project that I was working with for my most recent book, The Secret of the Three C's. Greg came to me, actually has written a bunch of copy that we're going to go over here in a minute on my personal page. Greg, we've done a couple of Zoom calls together. He's an awesome guy, great personality, knows his shit copywriting. Copy is something that, Greg and I have talked about before, that you can either try to do it yourself and learn, which takes you hundreds of hours. You can do a very shit job, or you can hire an expert, somebody like Greg. And I've had copywriters on my team for about 6 years now. We had Monique a few weeks ago who helped me write my book. But I'm proud to bring to you today, Greg. Greg, thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, man, no problem. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely, brother. So before we get into the meat of the interview, the copywriting, give us your backstory, man.
Well, when I got into, it wasn't even copywriting directly at first. Originally, I was just looking for a way to get out of my day job, which I was doing construction work as a laborer. And I don't know how many people are familiar with that, but basically you're the lowest paid on the scale, the hardest worked. And if you come home without something injured, it's a good day, basically. So I was just tired of doing that and giving up all that time, not seeing my family, not having a life. And I started looking for something else during the layoff period. And where it took me to was there was a guy, his name was Roy Carter. I don't know how many people have heard of him, but he's a marketer out of Australia.
Okay.
Real good dude. He had a course going on. It was $150 a month. I signed up for it. And in this course, he taught you marketing, like modern internet marketing. And I was like, all right, I got to get out of this. Something's got to help. So I got into doing this. And one of the first things he teaches you is email marketing. And I got into doing that, and I was, started writing emails to cold audiences, and I started seeing my click rates go up high. I started seeing, my click-throughs go real high, and started to see a little bit of sales here, which doing a one-on-one call with him, he looked over a lot of my stuff and he was like, this is actually kind of impressive. He said, I love the way you have a natural flow to all your emails. He said, you write really well when you do it. And he said, the results you're getting are great for, just starting and to a cold audience. So it kind of pushed me further into it. And I started to learn copywriting because, I realized I had a little bit of a natural knack to it. And I got into the One Funnel Away challenge, started to learn more about marketing. And during that challenge, as much as they talk about your copy, you hear from Jim Edwards and then Russell talking about his copywriters. And I heard what they make and, what they do. And I was like, I think I could get into that. So I started studying with, I think one of the first people was Sean Bosler, which he's the one that has the book, 7-Figure Market Copy. And he just, once I got into that, man, it clicked, and it was kind of my thing after that.
So when you're, so I've studied copywriting too, not exclusively, extensively to your level, but I started out with like Dan Kennedy, Eugene Schwartz, David Ogilvy, the old school guys. So when you're writing, and we'll just get into the media interview because I'm gonna take so much out of this. I just want our audience to kind of delve in and because copy is such an important aspect in any business because you're influencing your audience, via the written word. Like your whole goal is to get them to take that next step or to take that next step or to take that next step. When you're writing copy, like do you outline it? Do you have a blueprint? Do you do research on what you're selling or proposing first? Like how is your mindset? Because I know with a lot of the copywriters, they'll spend 75 to 8% of the time doing the research on the product or service, and the copy comes easy.
Yeah, typically the way I learned it anyways was your first thing you do is you go right into kind of information you get back from your client. You look at who their competitors are, you look at their product, and then you start doing research on their product. You do research on their competitors. You do research on any product that even is in close, competition, whether it's direct or indirect competition, you start to get into their audience, you do research on their audience, and that's, so much of that opens up to you once you get in looking around at who, has their audience but not their product, who has their product but, a similar audience. And you start putting all this together and you outline who the person you're talking to is. Once you get the idea of who you're talking to, what you're selling, then you start to, just kind of line it out into benefits. What's the problem I'm solving? What's the solution I'm giving? What else does this do? What does this really do for them? And you start getting into like nitty gritty details. The further you get into it, the better the copy usually does. Because anytime you write anything, it's always just to one audience.
Right. So what, like when did you start copywriting? When did you start with Roy?
Oh man, that was probably like 2 years ago now.
Okay.
But one of the nice things though was I had, from working pipeline for all those years, which that's the construction I was doing, was gas pipelines. I had all this money back, and the thing with learning anything is you have a choice. You can either spend time and practice and get good at it, or you can spend money and have somebody who's way ahead of you teach you everything that they learned between where you are and where they're at. And so I would do little bursts of that and then learn by experience and then go back to learning from somebody. And so it actually really excelled what I do by probably at least 2 or 3 years.
Okay. And I know every time that you and I talk, you're like, have you heard of this guy, or have you done this? Or like, you're always referencing books. And, even for my book, you had the idea of doing the audio version, which I'm in the process of doing now. But on top of that, you said, hey man, why don't you get, somebody that knows the book or knows you to kind of like bounce back and forth with you. So Jay Lieberman, he was episode 3 or 4 of For Entrepreneurs by Entrepreneurs, is joining me. Good friend, good personality. So we're just going to bounce back and forth. And I think what I really like about you is you're like always researching, you're always learning, you're like trying to get better at your trade, at your craft, right?
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, my viewpoint is if I stop learning, then I might as well have quit what I'm doing, because there's always something. It doesn't matter what point I'm at. 20 years down the road, there's going to be something that somebody else figured out that I don't know how to do, or that they do better than me. And I have to know what it is that makes them better than me. So as long as I'm doing this, a lot of the free time I get is spent learning something else. Like, for instance, one of the things that I picked up was I started taking a neurolinguistics programming class. It sounded like something I wanted to do.
Right.
So, but yeah, like the most recent stuff I've been doing, I actually picked up, I know a lot of people know who Gary Halbert is. He's like the godfather of copy.
Exactly.
I've been picking up every book and everything I can find by him or his son Bond. And that's
the Born Letters.
Mm-hmm. Just got him in the other day. Actually, the coolest thing I got was there is an audio series on halbertising.com.
Okay.
And what it is it's a series of letters that he used to send out in his newsletters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's read by every single one of the top copywriters. John Carlton, I think Dan Kennedy read one, yep. Ron Halbert, and they're teaching you what the lesson in this is. So it's pretty neat.
So when you started writing copy, and I know this is how a lot of people start, did you go back to all the great letters, all the great direct response pieces, and physically write out the copy line by line? Because I know that's how some copywriting teachers teach you how to learn copy, is to go back and literally copy these awesome sales letters. Did you do that or not?
No, I didn't go through the hand copying it. What I did was I actually started studying it, tearing it apart, and taking notes on what it was that I saw, what happened, the patterns. I don't see each person that teaches this teaches it different. I had one mentor who told me it was a waste of my time to do that. Another one who told me that, no, you need to do that. And then I found this really cool resource online. I'm trying to think of what it was called. It was, I'd have to look for it, but it's a website where they actually have like all these old sales letters and ads and all that from the greatest copywriters who ever lived. And I started using that, tearing them down, and, just improved what I do that way.
So is there a specific genre that you prefer writing?
Honestly, for me, a lot of it's about the voice of the company more so than just niche or genre, as you'd call it. But
Okay. Um, all right. So let's do kind of an outline or a dive into what you wrote for me. Is
Okay.
that cool?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So let me share the screen here. Got it up. All right. So what we started with here. So when you're writing copy and putting together a sales letter, or a funnel. I came to Greg through ClickFunnels. You've actually been to Funnel Hacking Live, right?
Yeah, I went last year.
Okay.
Or I guess it's this year. It just feels like last year.
It feels like about 5 years ago now. So that was in like
I know.
February, right? Like Nashville? Is that where it was?
End of January, beginning February. Yeah, down in
Yeah.
Nashville. It was
Awesome.
right before all of this COVID stuff happened. I think right when I went down, I think 2 days into it, they said that they found the first case of COVID in Tennessee.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had Russell had them put hand sanitizing stations every like 10 foot. You just kept walking, they were there, and they gave out hand sanitizer that said funnel hacker on it. And
Gotcha.
yeah,
Cool.
so
All right. So can you see my screen?
I can.
So do you want to go through like how you came up with the headline or anything like that? You want to walk listeners and viewers through this?
Yeah, initially what I did, which you'll notice this with almost every sales page, every funnel page opt-in, they've all got a certain pattern to them. The
Hmm.
first thing that you usually do is you do like a call out for whoever this is for, to give them a minute to kind of identify themselves as needing this. And we kind of touch on the problem there too, a little bit of entrepreneurs. Do you struggle to publish profitable content? Which there's a huge market for that. That was, simple and straight to the point before it goes into the headline, which is free book exposes untaught strategy that instantly creates raving fans with your content. Um, One of the things that I learned with headlines is they have to be unique, they have to be useful, and they have to, everything that somebody needs to not just identify themselves but pull themselves further in has to be there. The whole goal of your headlines to pull them into the next line.
Yep.
You don't get that, you've wasted your time. So basically what I wanted to do in that little section in the header with the headline and all that was give people a chance to identify, hey, he's talking to me, and oh yeah, that's a problem I have. And also, wait a second, how does it do that? Because ultimately anything you do, anything you write, you want to create a question in their head. You don't have to pose it, but when you put words together in the right way, you're going to have people come up with their own questions that now they want to, read down and continue to get their answer. But then we go into a little bit of, what this does is and makes them want to buy from you now. So you'll never have to sell again. So basically what we've done is put together kind of a pretty bold claim and, laid into it a little harder with a little bit more boldness. And, just basically, I mean, looking at that, it gives you a question of how does this work?
Right.
And that's what we want them to read on for. Then the next section into it, right by your VSL there, what I wanted to go over in that was just kind of the, what the book covered, give them a little bit of pieces that they could act on right there if they really needed, if it connected and it hit the nerve, or, they were the right temperature of traffic. Everything they need to react and to take action is technically right here. So at least a section of your traffic is going to react to that. I even have
So
the testimonial
So to
there.
give you a little backstory, I sent Greg a copy of the book before it was, I guess, officially published, right? I think sent you a Word or PDF document of it. Um, and then we did like a discovery call where Rachel, who actually built out, physically built out the site, Greg did the copy for the site. We got on there and basically outlined. So everything that Greg is talking about here is basically spelled out in the book. He's actually putting better and more impactful words than I did when I wrote the book. But none of the claims here are nothing that's untrue. Everything
No,
was
of course not.
what I've done, the process I've taken. So you're just like you said, rearranging words.
Pretty much. Yeah, basically what you want to do is, and I guess honestly, this will be helpful for anybody who decides to try to write their own copy. What you want to do is take an idea, like in this case, I took an idea from the book. It's basically content frameworks that attract hordes of buyers naturally. Well, if you go the whole way through the book, you get multiple different ideas that create frameworks, and you use those to start to create your audience, get them to take action and, basically turn them into hordes of buyers. So what I did was I just posed it so you get the whole idea in a short sentence.
Right.
That, but as you go down through this.
So then we reiterate the copy there from the headline up top.
Yep.
And then this is the
is your
sales letter from me.
Yeah. This is kind of, it's sort of an about you sort of section.
Right.
Basically what I did with this, I think I cleaned it up a little bit, but I didn't do a whole lot of changing because this is something that we wanted to hold your personality, show them you.
And, this is my, the secret of the 3 C's, how it impacted my business, which is 100% accurate, with a video of me there. And then it goes back to the client. Have you been stuck in your business?
Yeah. So basically what we've done and what you've seen up till here is we've taken everything, like Eric, or like you said, everything came from the book. So there's nothing here that's made up. There's no outlandish claims. But everything that you have, I posed in a way to make it shorter and quicker without, having to read the whole book. In this section, what I wanted to do was kind of give them an idea of what they're getting from it. What does this mean for them?
Right.
And, this will kind of paint out some of the problems, some of the solution as you go down through the whole thing.
And then you point out the 3 C's that I always talk about. With this method, you'll learn how to make money by overspending on a vacation, eating in an Italian restaurant. So these are actually newsletters that I had written.
Yeah.
Stories that I had written in my newsletter that Greg just took and took the headlines out of there. And so who's this for? Yep. So now he's giving a call to action of who this is for, right?
Yeah, exactly, of who this will work for. It's just because one of the things you find, and this is a question that every buyer poses in their mind when they read anything, is, yeah, but this won't work for me, or will this work for me? So we've completely addressed that objective by giving them all the info out front, which anytime you write copy, you want to try to, which this comes from the research. You start to see the objections, the questions, what people have doubts on, what they feel they need to know. And these are the kind of things you want to address before they've even had a chance to ask them.
Right. So you've got the listener or the reader, the audience member going through, and they're having these objections in your head. You as a good copywriter, and this is one of the keys of being a great copywriter, is figuring out what those objections are from the reader that's going to be reading. No, this can't work for me. It can't work for me. Mm-hmm. And then you're answering the questions. It can work for you because, and you're giving a list, right?
Yeah. You're basically, what you're doing is you're having what they call a sales argument.
Right.
But you're doing it on text. Right. You have to have this debate inside of somebody's head, was the way it was described to me. And it's like, so you have to know what they're thinking.
That's exactly right. Benefit feature. So
yeah, this part here, I think we have it on the document, but it hasn't been put into the page yet. Rachel's working on that now.
And then we, like with any great marketing piece, great sales letter, great funnel, we've modeled this after some very successful funnels for book marketing. So you don't always, in marketing and entrepreneurship and business and copywriting, you're not always reinventing the wheel. That's why Greg went and studied from Roy. That's why Greg went to Funnel Hacking Live. Like, he takes bits and pieces, and I do in my business too. And I do when I'm doing a new podcast is, I'm going to model my podcast after somebody that's successful, that's already paved that path. Is it going to be exactly the same? No, but I'm going to have the framework. And that's what you're doing when you're writing copy. You have a framework of somebody that's written copy before, and you're going in and adding your own flavor to it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it goes a little further. Like, I do everything as a rewrite. I just kind of use them like a stencil. Like, if, I guess the idea would be the headline goes here, this section's here, that section's here, I'll follow those guidelines. Now, a thing you will find though, and you'll see this in a lot of cheaper copywriters, like off of Fiverr, the guys making the ridiculously low, oh, I'll do that for $100. A lot of guys will actually use a template, like almost, spot on. They'll literally pull a word here and there out and
Right.
change it. And like, I've always hated that. I mean, most of the time, if you've been in marketing or you've seen it done, 100 times, you can look at this page and go literally, yeah, that's a template. They stole that somewhere.
Exactly.
And the main thing, which a lot of people don't get and understand with marketing, when your customer comes to your page, the very first thing they're trying to do is find a reason not to trust you. So the more reason you give them not to, the more likely you're not going to get the sale. But the first thing they see, they get hooked in by this sounds good. And then they go through, and just part of the buyer psychology is, why should I not trust this guy? What has he given me to not trust him? And if they go down through and they can't find it, that's when they actually, start moving towards the idea of an action. You've addressed their objectives. You've answered their questions. You've told them what's in it for them, and you haven't given them a reason not to trust you. Essentially, that's what makes the sale.
I've never heard that before, Greg, but I think that's a phenomenal point. Is when people come to you, they've heard about you or clicked on a link or done a Google AdWord or whatever, or looked on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I go to, you get all the ads on Facebook for a new watch or this crazy outlandish thing, this back thing. You go to the website and you're exactly right. You're looking for a reason not to trust that site, not to trust that person. I've never thought of that before, Greg. I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things, and this is the weird thing, because you see this a lot on Amazon, you see it a lot on Facebook ads. You can literally look at a sales page or an item description, and you can tell whether or not it's worth buying just by the copy. There's what I think if you look right now and you look at anything in e-commerce, 90% of it is all written by somebody Chinese who doesn't speak English, and you can tell because you go down through and there's just key sentences that,
Right.
and it's not even grammar. It's just, I don't know. It's something about translation. They just don't get the structure of the sentence the same.
Awesome. All right, Greg. So, I mean, obviously we've worked together before, but I'm a new client coming to you. I want you to write copy for a service or an ad or book or whatever that I have. Give me how that works, like timeline, like what's our first week look like, and how long does it take to get the copy?
Pretty much the way it starts is it all starts with, the initial call. Like we get on a call first off, and we'd kind of talk about what your goal is, what your product is, and what you envision out of what you're trying to do. So if it's just an ad, it's pretty simple. And it's just like, all right, I need, let me see what you've got for your page. Where are we targeting the ad? Let me see that. And tell me a little bit about your product. Who is your audience? And we'll go over some of that. And then what we'll do is when we get off the phone or off the call, I'll go through and I'll do a little bit of research to expand based off of how much research you've already got for me. Some people literally have their full avatar. They've gone out on the streets. They've asked everybody that this applies to that's in their audience. And that makes my job 100 times easier. Most people don't though, which is understandable because, who's got the time for all that anyways? But at that point I go into my researching, and maybe 2 days of depending on how simple it is. I know a lot of guys will run anywhere from 2 days to, I've even heard of some copywriters running up to almost 15 days worth of research. It all just depends on what we're writing, what the product is, who the audience is, how much information we've gotten up front. And then literally the writing is knocked out in a day, maybe two, depending on how long it is. So what I do is it was termed to me as like a copy dump, or literally puking the words out on the paper. And then the whole rest of the project is nothing but editing. And it kind of works out where editing takes up almost the largest part of it. So let's say I gave you a 1 week, 1 week I'll deliver that ad to you.
Right.
Out of that whole week, about 3 days is going to be me editing. 3 days will be me researching. 1 day will be me putting it out on paper. That's just kind of the way copywriting works. But as far as like prices go, typically what I did when I started anyways was I kind of got an idea of what my time was worth to me. And I think at the time it was $50 an hour I asked. But the thing was, I made my guesstimations as to how long it took me to do your project. So like for an ad, research and all together, as long as you've got your initial page written out and ready to go and all I'm doing is a Facebook ad, it usually only takes about 3 days. Research is pretty, it's fairly limited because I'm writing off of your sales page.
Mm-hmm.
So, I do some research there and I go and I look at other ads out there for similar products or to your audience. And then I write your ad and then I edit it and then I get it back to you.
Cool. Awesome. So how would listeners and viewers find you, Greg?
Well, you can find me a couple of different places. On Facebook, my name is Gregory Blake. So you can find me there. I actually have my website, it's a little bit outdated because I've been too busy, but it's my portfolio site, which is gregbcopy.com.
gregbcopy.com.
Yeah, you can book if you want. I give free consultation calls, usually keep them around a half an hour. We can go over, any new projects you have, any of that, or you can email me from that same page. Or if you just, you can actually, I think it's admin at gregbcopy or gregbcopy.com. You can reach me there too. So.
Awesome. And you can definitely find him on Facebook. I think you're in the ClickFunnels site too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in their group. I'm in your group too. So.
Yeah, you're in For Entrepreneurs by Entrepreneurs too.
I'm everywhere.
Yeah. So trying to, Greg is, I've worked with a lot of copywriters and over my, 6-7 years of studying and having copywriters on my team. And Greg is definitely knows what he's doing and what he's talking about. And I love that he's always researching, trying to implement and get better at his copy, pun intended. Greg, thanks for joining us today, man.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me, man. It's been a good time.
Absolutely, brother. Episode 21, For Entrepreneurs by Entrepreneurs. That's Greg Blake, and we are out.